Welcome to the Monday Club in association with Find Insurance NI, your local commercial insurance broker. Today we ask, after 7 years under Pádraic Joyce, can Galway finally shake off the nearly men tag? Okay, I'm Neil Loughran and I'm joined this week by Stefan Campbell and Cahair O'Kane. Welcome, lads.
Afternoon.
Cahair, good to see you back.
Thanks, Neil.
Euro Disney?
Yeah.
How was it?
Serious walking, lads. Serious walking.
You got on the rides?
I did, just
Good.
about now. 107 on a couple of them, so I was borderline on a few now, but they let me on. I talked nicely to the bouncers.
Good stuff. And Stefan, you have a big week coming up this week. Prague bound. Are you confident? What's the feeling now? A few days out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Confident about you making it home? I mean, like.
Yeah, I'll definitely be home. Real make sure of that. No, I near had a heart attack when Cahair went down at the weekend, to be honest. But no, I'm looking forward to getting over. Fly out Thursday to Saturday. So looking
Have you ever
forward to
been
the trip.
before? Have you ever been?
Been to Prague before.
I think everybody has, haven't they?
Yeah, it's a nice city. Looking
I
forward
don't
to it.
even know. Provisionally, have you got tickets for the final then, if they get there in Dublin? What way is that? Or can you provisionally get those?
No, I think it's sell out already, to be honest.
It's gone.
Yeah, but hopefully somebody can. I'm sitting in deep circles
But
here, so
put out an appeal.
Need to pull out for me.
Public appeal.
Go up, yeah, here we go. Right, a wee bit closer to home anyway. Last time we were talking to you, you were saying you might have finally got to go and see Armagh play, but you didn't against Kerry yesterday. It was a cracker. Probably as well. You probably would have taken somebody's head off if you'd been sitting there, because it was frenetic and it was unbelievable atmosphere in the athletic grounds. They played Donegal, or Kerry now play Donegal in the Division One final on Sunday. What was your feeling watching that? Like, first 20 minutes, saying to people, like, you just could not make an argument for it. Like, you were looking at Kerry and just going, like, it was just like they picked up where they left off last July or last June, whenever it was against Armagh. Just Armagh couldn't get their hands on the ball.
I was thinking they just picked off from the previous week. They were 25 from 26. They hit 96%, and we were all thinking this is not sustainable. After 20 minutes, they ripped that script up. We were thinking, here we go again. But thankfully it didn't take a bit of hard drive treatment at half time. The players were able to turn it around themselves, because another 15 minutes of how they were playing and how inefficient they were, and the amount of turnovers that they were giving Kerry, it might have got ugly. But thankfully, obviously, Kane got the settler, showed a great turn of foot to go past Graham O'Sullivan, and then I was really impressed with Dora McMullen's leadership. We won the kick out and he went on the counter attack. It looked like a 3-on-3, and he had the IQ just to take a step back and kick the 2-pointer. And look, the 1-pointer it obviously wasn't the biggest score, but the crowd, that's when the crowd really got involved, because it was only the second score in the game, and then the scoreline went 10-3, and like from there on, it was an unbelievable game of football, and the quality was so high, and like Conor McManus nailed it in commentary, that it was a frantic game. It was frenetic. It was chaotic, and I'm glad I wasn't there for the first 20 minutes.
It did just fly past Cahair, didn't it? Like, the game itself, just like it was non-stop.
Aye, and it's, those like Armagh did incredibly well to come back from those 20 minutes to get, and probably definitely could have won the game in the end, had enough chances and had the chance at the end to win it. But I just think in those 20 minutes at the same time, you just see, right, Kerry are probably still that wee bit ahead. And
when you think who still has to come back into that?
You look at, and people talk about the rules and the rule changes, how they've suited Kerry, but there's a lot of it too, is that Kerry's age profile now, they're just at the Clifford and O'Shea, and they were going to win All Irelands. We're going to win them, and it was only a case of getting them to 26, 27, 28 into their peak years, and there was going to be no stopping them anyway, whatever the rules were. So, but it's kind of exacerbated it, and they're really suited to the game the way it is now. There's that wee bit more space, and the most impressive thing about them over the last 14, 15 months has just been their aggression in midfield, is how they pulverise the kick out, and they just go full steam after the ball in there. The power and physicality of Joe O'Connor and O'Brien and Mark O'Shea.
Mark
They've
O'Shea.
done so well. Mark O'Shea man of the match yesterday, and they've done so well in that
O'Connor's
area.
not even there yet,
That's
like,
Dermot O'Connor. I've said it repeatedly. It was up until the point he got injured last year was in Footballer of the Year for him. And to take him out of your team to go into your All-Ireland final without Thomas Sullivan, without Paul Geaney, like Kerry, by all intents and purposes, should be stronger this year on paper. But that was my question mark over them. Could they, make that aggression, find that level of midfield aggression where they just ploughed out over the top of men to win ball in the Armagh game and the Donegal game particularly last year? Could they refine that? And yesterday showed that, when it comes to it, they're going to make a fair fist of it.
Jack O'Connor couldn't have sounded less enthused about the prospect of a league final next week. He was, what was it he said? We'll never turn it down. You'll never turn down a trip to Croke Park. You know what I mean? But I'm wondering, Stefan, like, obviously you've been in league final or Division 2 final with Armagh a couple of years ago against Donegal and stuff, and that was. I'm wondering what the because we all get into this kind of notion of it's just shadow boxing. Nobody's actually going to want to show their full hand here. What kind of conversations do take place in the lead up to a game like that? Because there definitely is an element of obviously, like Donegal and Kerry be very wary of playing each other when it really matters.
Yeah, well, I haven't had the experience of prepping for the Division 1 final. In the build up to the Division 2, like it's a national title, so we weren't used to winning. We went out to win that game. Donegal went out to win that game. The then marker for the Ulster Championship. Now, Division 1's a bit different because we don't know what training block these two counties have. Do Jim's another 3 weeks here. He wasn't afforded that last year. Has he took the foot off the pedal? Did he want to be in this final? Who knows? Do you know what I mean? Because he did rest a few players in round 5, round 6. Picked up a few injuries. I would say Kerry are probably the more happier in getting the game. I don't think Jim was bothered whatsoever, just based on his team selection in the last few rounds. Not sure, what do you think?
It's really hard to know how both teams think about it in terms of, right, Donegal are going there now in the league final, and everybody's thinking Kerry didn't want to get there, Kerry don't want to show that. It's nearly the opposite. The Donegal want to show how they're going to defend. Do they want to give Paddy Clifford 70 minutes, even though he's not fit and playing at the minute? Yeah. But if he was there, do they want to give him 70 minutes of work on Finbar Roarty out as much as potentially the other way around? The Clifford McCall thing is a constant kind of, do Kerry want McCall getting another 70 minutes and Clifford working out his wee ticks and working out
Shannon, like, and it was the one game
and he didn't go exactly. So and then you're into shadow box, and then you're absolutely into sort of, obviously I don't think anybody's ever gone out to play a game of football and not won it. You go out the back of the houses and at 6 o'clock when you're 11-year-old and you want to win the game of football you're playing, but how much you put into that and how much you're willing to show the opposition is probably where the league finals fall down.
And do you expect both teams to go full strength?
Personnel wise, I would say they'll probably not be huge. They'll not be miles off it. Like, you're talking certainly 10, 11, 12 starting players.
Because they have a bit of time.
Because they have a wee bit of time. Like, Kerry have, loads of time now. Realistically, the Munster final against Cork, if that is a game, if that is a contest, you don't know with that whether Cork will give them the full game. So it might be their only game between now and the All-Ireland starting, and even the round one of the All-Ireland could be soft, so it could be a while. So Kerry will probably be happy enough, and then Donegal, obviously a different side, but they'll just not want to go to Croke Park and lose in the manner again to Kerry that they did. And also, like, Donegal have won one National League title in their history, so there is that as well. Like, as you say, they are national trophies. They're nice to have. They're not the be all and end all, but they'll still want to win them. That sounds like a silly thing in order to say, because of course they want to win them.
Yeah, I suppose it's a momentum thing to a degree as well. Like, well, I mean, we've obviously talked about Armagh and Kerry yesterday. Completing that kind of Division 1 relegation picture was Galway and Dublin in Salt Hill, and nobody knew what the hell was happening, until the very, very end. Like, Dublin were comfortable enough at one stage, but Galway came back, saved their skins, and that's who we're going to have a wee look at today. Obviously, Stefan, you would know Galway better than probably any other county nearly, because it seems like Armagh met them consistently over the last 3 or 4 years. But All-Ireland finalists 2022, 2024, things have evolved and changed a bit this year. Cahair, like, where do you see that they sit at the minute at the end of this league campaign?
Yeah, certainly well worthy of a place in Division One, as Armagh were. I think neither of them deserve to go down behind Dublin. I think they're both better than Dublin, and they're both better than, obviously they're both better than Monaghan by a wee distance at the minute. But they definitely are showing signs of changing in certain areas and certain things that they're doing. Like one of the we talked about this earlier. Like I was so convinced that Meath would beat them in the All-Ireland quarter final last year, because Galway were so reliant on their 2-pointers, and they were so, they were struggling so much on kickouts. They were going in to face a team that was strong in the middle of the field. It just felt like it was perfectly set up for Meath to scalp. I didn't think Galway were good at all last year, really, at any point. And that reliance on 2-pointers was grand in the league, but it became a weakness as the year went on. And you look at them this year, they've taken, like, by the fourth game last year, they had taken 38 shots for 2-pointers. In the whole league this year, they took 40. So they have dramatically reduced their reliance on twos.
Because they became predictable, didn't they?
They became totally predictable. You just defended them around there. The Meath game was just a procession of them lining up around the arc and trying to get shots off, and they had no punch in behind. They didn't really carry a massive goal threat, and they didn't look. It was nearly like a one was a last resort. Let's take a point now because we can't get a two.
Do you think it was year one of the new rules?
Oh, no doubt.
Everyone thought that the 2 points was to be on.
I think you saw everybody was kind of looking out what ways that they could maximise that, and Galway obviously had the personnel to go that way. They had
and nobody knew if the risk was worth it.
Yeah,
based on the percentages. Whereas this year they just seem to be more disciplined on where they're taking them shots from. There's less pot shots from the tighter angles. We obviously seen Finnerty last week throwing the dummy solo, and that's generally where they're kicking their 2 points from, where the percentages are much higher. And then inside that, because they have been more accurate, the percentages are much higher. The defence is having to push out. They're selling themselves, going for the block, and then it's giving them an opportunity to step inside behind that initial line, and then that's where they're creating them goal chances from. I think they hit 9 goal chances in the league. I think they blanked yesterday, but it goes to show that they've tidied that up over the winter. They're not as reliant on the 2 point shots, and they're not going after volume. They're just going after efficiency. And I'm thinking of the goals here against Armagh as well. They obviously scored 3, so it's kind of skewed a bit. They hit 9 in the league.
They did. I'm going to bore you now with a stat here, but
here comes the spreadsheet.
Like they have had, what is it, 34 goal chances in the league. 34 goal chances, and in their last 4 games, they've had 16 and they've only scored 1. Like Armagh are getting kicked from pillar to post for missing goal chances and passing up goal chances. Galway have missed a phenomenal amount of good goal chances in the last 4 games, but they're creating them, and there's more variety. And you're exactly right. Like, we saw bits and pieces of trends, and you saw through the league kind of people highlighting the correlation between 2 pointers and your league position. The top 4 in the league with the top 4 2-point kickers, But it's almost as if Galway have found a balance. Last year they were entirely reliant on them, and other teams weren't getting enough of them. Dublin weren't getting enough of them, and they were at the bottom end of it. Whereas Galway are I think they're just fine in the middle. I think they're in a decent enough position where, like, if they keep creating the volume of goal chances that they're creating, some point that's going to turn and they're going to start ticking them again. You can't keep on missing.
I think there too, the key word there is the creativity. Going back to that game, the Athletic Grounds, Rob Finnerty could have been accused of maybe being a stat potter in the past. However, if you go back to that Matthew Tierney goal, he could have swung that over with his right foot, come back on his left, but he put the ball in behind, created that goal chance, and then he gave a lovely backdoor at the top of the arc. You're expecting him to swing it over in the second half, but he just delays that pass, slips in Kieran Malloy, and then they get their second goal, and he was fortunate enough to get his own goal that night, with the 2 point, it was a free kick, wasn't it, on the outside the arc, and then obviously it was a bit of confusion, but it just goes to show you that they've done a lot of work on that. They're sucking defenders in, and then obviously releasing that ball as opposed to maybe kicking their simple score.
We go back to the All-Ireland final. Like I would have felt going into it that so much talk always about Walsh and Comer, but Finnerty was playing so well and him going off so early in that was a massive moment in that All-Ireland final.
Yeah, look, it was unfortunate for him. He's obviously a young kid at that stage a couple of years ago, but we were absolutely delighted. You know, it was one less fire to put out. He was kicking the lights out as well. It was unfortunate to go off. We were quite lucky in the sense that Comer was carrying a knock going in. He hadn't got the body right. Even Walsh, I think he said after that the hamstrings were nipping at him all year. So obviously we deserved to get over the line, but we were quite fortunate in that 2 or 3 other key men just weren't at the heights. And obviously with Rob being withdrawn, you know, it gave us confidence that, you know, we can get the job done here today. Like,
see, just on we're talking about Finnerty there, and again he showed a bit of everything apart from the penalty that he has yesterday against Dublin. But on Walsh and Comer, I'm wondering how a panel deals with that, or how a manager even deals with that issue, because it's something that, like, there's nearly this purgatory that Galway seem to be in a way, waiting for.
Don't waste your great stat now. Give us your great stat.
I'm coming here.
Sorry.
but
I thought you were going to go past it. It's a great stat here.
But it's you know, like,
you love stats.
Cahair's the stat man. But you know, like, so basically in the last 4 years, since 22 All-Ireland final defeat to Kerry, Comer and Walsh have played 70 minutes together just twice. And the last 3 years they've only played 4 games together. But yet there's always this conversation around them, you know what I mean? It's always like, but Walsh, you know, and Walsh did play bits and pieces last year. But like Comer didn't play at all during the league. And Walsh, I think, played a part in the first game against Mayo, not since. Is that unsettling? If you're like, if you can put yourself in that position? I'm trying to think, you know, for the rest of the team trying to plan and a manager trying to plan. Those are 2 huge players that any county would love to have, but the unavailability becomes an issue.
I think Joyce has managed it well. Like, he's going on the record and saying, like, this is Finnerty's team. If them boys come back at this stage, that's a bonus. Do you know what I mean? And obviously Damien struggled a lot longer with injuries. It just looks like maybe the load over the years, the punishment they've been through, has just taken its toll. I think maybe if we're speaking specifically about Damien Comer himself, look, we don't want to sit here and put an end to someone's career, but I think at this stage, look, the best that Galway and Joyce can hope for is maybe, can we get him fit for 15 or 20 minutes? I think maybe his days of starting maybe are in the past, but what an asset if he can get himself maybe to 60 or 70%, just on how physical he can be, how bullish he can be. He would add that extra dimension. I don't know where he is in his rehab. We haven't seen him this year. Is he going to play a championship? Look, we know it's a short window. It's only around the corner. But again, this is Finnerty's team at the minute, and if we see them guys in the championship, it's a bonus, and it's another fire to put out for the opposition. But it doesn't look likely at the moment.
I remember being down in Tuam when they played Tyrone in the league last year, and he wasn't fit, and he round the back of the stand in Tuam, he kind of came walking, and one of the Galway lads said, "How you doing, Damien? How's things? Where you at?" And he's like, I'm a couple of weeks away. I don't think we've seen him since. You know, and it's such a pity. You know, I think I might have been at the last game where he looked like he was himself. Was the Salt Hill qualifier against Mayo in 23, and he wrecked it in the first half. And Mayo couldn't cope with him. Any sort of ball put in near him, and he looked like Galway probably didn't get the return off it that they might have, but they were very close to. And he was wrecking it, and then at half time he was taken off. He was gone, and the game completely flipped, and Mayo won it. And it just feels like that kind of summed it up. You know, the potential that he would have. Like in the All-Ireland final, they never kicked him a ball. I actually noticed in the semi-final that year against Donegal, where, you know, He was basically, he was almost there to drag the sweeper across. The sweeper was so scared of him that if you looked at so many of Galway's shots, they were taken from the opposite side of where Comer was. So Comer made his run right, he dragged the sweeper right, and the shot came from the other side. And it meant that by doing nothing, he was still doing something. Even having him fit to stand on the pitch was nearly enough because of the sheer threat of him. And it's just, I just think it's a complete sin from a spectator's point of view. Not that anybody has done it. I just love to have seen more of him. I think in these rules as well, he could have caused absolute carnage if he got 1v1s with any defender. Like, he'd be a machine.
He's still only 31,
32.
32, 32.
Yeah.
Him and Walsh both.
And like, if you're going to design a player for these rules, it's Damien Comer. You know what I mean? There's not a gap he wouldn't have went through against 15. Never mind the 11. So it's a shame, but again, 32 years of age, they might be holding them back for championship, but we don't know. But hopefully he can get himself fit enough to get back on the field.
And see, in terms of how Armagh would have prepared for Galway, obviously it would have changed from 2024 All Ireland final to the last of the round robin games last year because of the rules and so forth. Like, how did that approach change? Like, what were the different threats or different angles that Armagh or any team has to focus on now with Galway, as opposed to the old game?
It's the variety. It's the profile of player they have. You've just so much to worry about. Like, you had Finnerty, who isn't the quickest, and that's what's even more impressive about his game and how he's able to go toe to toe with the main man marker now with the two lads missing. But like, you have Finnerty, who can kick them on the loop. He's a big threat in the back door. You have Walsh, who has two of the best feet we've ever seen. He's turn of foot, and he's low centre of gravity too. You have Comer, who's just a bully. Like, he can do you on the outside. He can go after your weak shoulder. Two good feet also. And I don't think he would be 6 foot. He must be 5'11", 5'12", but he's seriously good in the air as well. He uses that physicality in the air when he's challenging the ball. We had so much to worry about. And then on the outside, you had you had Darcy, you had Maher, who's gone. Them two lads have gone to another level. You could argue it's their team as well as Finnerty at this stage, but
Big Matty Tierney as well.
Tierney is 6'4", 6'5" as well, and
really developed over the last couple of years too. Like, turned into a serious operator.
Yeah, he's been a thorn. He's been a thorn in against us over the last couple of years. I remember him scoring a goal. We thought we had the game wrapped up in Armagh, and remember Ethan came out to collect the ball and he palmed it in, and then he got the one this year, where Finnerty popped it over, and he's an eye for goal. He's a really composed finisher, serious asset in the air as well. Do you know what I mean? Because there's such a big profile, again, you have to worry about him aerially and getting done in mismatches as well, because you would have had Peter Cook on the legs. Conroy is very deceptive in the air as well. You just so much to worry about. And then you had under the break, you had an influx of bodies, and that's where I think Cian O'Neill would have done a lot of that work in terms of that. Their midfield structure under the kick out, they were very good at finding them mismatches. We wouldn't have had the biggest team, and then that's where you would have seen obviously Peter McGrain played every game in the 24 season. We couldn't get a match up for him in that forward line, unfortunately, because such a season he had, such a career he is having. And like, that wasn't a once off. We had them in Sligo, and Kieran Higgins come in. Kieran Higgins had to come in. Kieran hadn't kicked the ball all year for us. 6'5", but
played full back.
Played full back and Mark Tierney out there, so it was horses for courses, especially against that Galway team. And go back to our earlier point when we're talking about this Donegal and Kerry rivalry. You only get to pick these matchups based on experiences, having played against each other, and that's where maybe O'Connor and McGuinness, they don't want to get that familiarity, because then we're able to go in an All Ireland final knowing we can't put McGrain in there. Conor Mackin, let's go, next man up.
Yeah,
and it's funny because in all of that's where I see a wee bit of the change in Galway this year as well, is in their profile, because like, their full forward line still stacked with big men. You know, Shane McDonough's come in there, he's a big lad. Even Ryan Roach came in yesterday, he's a big enough lad. Like, and Finnerty's well able to cope with it. But at times they had nearly a wall of five between Maher, Conroy, Tierney, Darcy and Cook. At times the five of them might have been in the team at once, and it nearly felt like an overload of big men, and they lacked for a wee bit of pace then, and the ball would come down, we would struggle with runners. And I actually think they're closer to getting the balance right. They're going, obviously Conroy's just back in and Cook's gone, and not saying it's because Cook's a good footballer, a good player, like, but it nearly feels like a wee bit of a blessing, and they're not having to make that decision. He's one of our better players. How do we leave him out? So they're going with Maher, Darcy, and Tierney at the minute, and Conroy's coming off the bench, and it feels like three's enough. And they're smaller on the wings, but they're more agile on the wings as well. And so Shane McGrath has come on, Kieran Mulhern has come on, and their 5 and their 7 is still Sean Kelly. So they're not massive in the middle and the rest of the middle yet. And I actually think that, you know, if you have 3 fielders, if you're fit to put a box for an overload kick out, like 3 fielders is enough. You need men underneath it then as well. And they're missing Kelly McDaid.
Yeah.
Is the one that I would say would come in and add a bit of physical profile underneath the second ball, and he will help in that regard. But I think I actually feel like I've never drunk the Galway Kool-Aid. Like, I've never been fully sold on them at all over the last 6 or 7 years. Never, just felt that there were wee bits missing. I actually think they might be closer to it now than they've been.
That's the thing. I think a lot of teams, especially in this league campaign, have probably eyeballed this Galway team on paper, thinking this is 2 points for us. Do you know what I mean? But this is the correlation we're probably talking about with the goal chances. Because they've sort of stepped away from that size element to their team. I recall playing against them, and again, the Cooks, etc., they're not going to test your inside shoulder. They don't want to get in behind you. They're kicking balls in the loop. So it's that extra threat that we can, especially even with the 15, we could have just shifted from zone to zone and back across because we weren't really getting tested. Whereas the 11, it's a different ball game. You know, they're going for maybe a profile of player with a better change of direction, better COD that you hear a lot of the S&C coaches talking about.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. All I thought there.
Knows with faster high speeds over the shorter distances in their sprints. So it's an interesting dynamic that although they've lost a lot of big men, but although they're not reaping the rewards in front of goal just yet, but we might see that in the summer.
Not yet. And even like Shane McGrath and Kieran Mulhern both started the league really, really well, and Mulhern against Mayo was like his delivery that day was top drawer, and McGrath against Kerry, the scores that he kicked that night in the equaliser and 2-pointer, and it felt like, right, we've got 2 real ballers here, but probably just have struggled to maintain that level in the last 3 or 4, and not like they're very, very young and they're only starting out, so you wouldn't expect them probably to maintain that level, but they probably do need to come back up a wee bit on the curve in order for Galway to sort of capitalise on it.
And they've probably been fast-tracked too, given the bodies that have been missing.
Absolutely.
They're probably playing a lot more football than Joyce would have anticipated. They would have expected themselves. I know Mulhern's still involved with the 20s this year, so I think they're being managed well to an extent, but I'm sure he would have liked to have maybe got them 15 or 20 minutes, here and there, as opposed to maybe having to throw them into the deep waters against the Mayos, etc. But
and within that, then Matthew Thompson's a big loss. Like he was brilliant last year for them, and his way this year, and he is just a classy ball player, and he was unbelievable at times last year.
A bit of everything, didn't he?
He was.
Joyce was left it open for him to come back.
He might come back.
Wouldn't surprise you. The only thing is, like, at what point he returns to the country and what point he returns to the setup, like, would he have anywhere near enough done then to step into an All-Ireland series game with no league under and he's not. Maybe he is.
I don't think he's even in the frame for Connacht. Sure, he's not. I think it's
it's probably later on. And saying, like, do you know the way you look at certain players? You're talking about Conroy, and like Conroy could be a 15-minute man, or a Comer could be a 15-minute man. Thompson's probably not a 15-minute man. He's not that style of a player. He's probably somebody who starts games, and so then what effectiveness do you get out of him by bringing him in towards the tail end of a season? So I would say, in terms of his impact, he probably won't see much this year.
And just on Joyce, like, I remember a couple of us spoke to Patrick Joyce in the months after the 2024 final, and he was saying that if Galway had won that day, like, he probably would have walked, like, that would have job done. There are some similarities in some respects with probably Kieran McGeeney to a degree, because he's in his 7th year there now. He has taken them to a level above where they were, but now it's kicking through, getting that. You mentioned Cian O'Neill there earlier on, Stefan. I'm wondering, like, he obviously, we've seen the impact that he had on Galway and then away to Kerry now. Like, how big of a difference does something like that make? Like, how is there a danger of Galway maybe plateauing without his, the level that he brings to things?
Like, looking from the outside, it's hard to know how much, how much he had to do with that squad. So I think it would be easy for us to say that because Galway have slipped slightly,
Easy to pin it on.
It's easy to pin it on him, but then we can also flip that and say, look, we just named 6 or 7 players that aren't available yet. But from my own experience playing against him, he had them set up so structurally sound. Again, we spoke about the outlet in midfield. I think that was all down to him, sort of midfield and behind.
Which we're seeing with Kerry.
We're seeing with Kerry now. Yeah. We've seen with Kerry last year. So yeah, it's no coincidence. He's obviously a highly thought of coach. Does Podrick think that he needed replaced? I'm not too sure if he was replaced or not, to be honest. But I think we it's hard to call. Do we pin it on Cian O'Neill, the drop off, or do we give Joyce a bit of leeway and say, look, he's going to fix this for the summer. They're going to improve naturally because we're going to get the bodies back. We can't forget that Darcy was late back. Was Maher late back as well? Missed a round or two.
He missed a round or two,
and Tierney
was only back in as well.
Do you know what I mean? So
10 deputies.
They were going there for. I think
league.
the first 2 games they had none of the 3 of them. Yeah.
So it's easy for us to say, look, they've dipped because Cian's gone, and look what Kerry's doing with them.
Yes.
But I think we have to weigh it up and use logic in that.
I do. I think there's a lot in the Cian O'Neill thing. Like I felt that Galway's trajectory really rose when he came in. I remember it was one of the early championship games under Joyce, and Mayo completely outfoxing them with a double sweeper, and Galway just didn't know how to play through it or around it, and it was just. It just felt like their tactical trajectory just lifted when Cian O'Neill came in, and I felt that last year they were a good way short. Now, again, how much of that was the rule changes, how much of that was reliance on 2-pointers, it was brand new, so can we attribute all of that to Cian O'Neill not being there? We don't actually, who really knows, but it felt like a big factor, and the fact that I thought Kerry were brilliant tactically last year. I thought between their midfield setup, their defensive setup, everything that they did, I thought they showed the signs of a team who had got a really good coach. And I thought that Galway showed the signs of a team who had lost a really good coach last year. So you could definitely correlate the two things. But I say, just looking at them in the early part of the year, they do look like a team that is getting closer to the middle. But it's still there's still obvious issues there too.
The goalkeeping scenario at the minute, I know you spoke about Conor Gleeson a few weeks ago, Stefan, and Conor Flaherty has been in and out at different times, and he started yesterday. In terms of how Armagh, even going back to the 2024 final, how Conor Gleeson's presence in goals affected how Armagh set up that day. The fact that you were able, knowing that he's not brilliant short kicker, allowed you to drop somebody else out around the middle. Like how it seems to be like, if you're looking for a weak spot with Galway, that seems to be it. Is that something that would have been identified? Not just Conor Gleeson, but in a general sense, and they're not settled. They're
definitely not settled at the minute because I think they've used 3 keepers in the league this year, and like Joyce is on the record as saying that they're going to rotate. Now, I think he's being kind to a couple of them, maybe, because obviously Flaherty started the last 2 games. You'd imagine, with their Division 1 status on the line there, that he's in pole position. But to go back to 24, Connor's obviously a good keeper. He won them a Connacht title really on his own, didn't he? Dragging it back into it, and he was kicking scores into that breeze. But I think from an Armagh perspective, we just thought he was a bit predictable. He wouldn't be one of these keepers like a Morgan or Blaine Hughes where he would manipulate the front line and he would give the eyes and go for another pocket. He wouldn't be the type to reverse a pass with his left leg, so that means we can then cheat off round the D, and then if we need to drop another player, as we were lacking a lot of size as well, so we were able to cheat off him a lot. Obviously a great keeper, just we thought he's a bit predictable, and obviously I highlighted previously just about that aerial threat too, because we got that reading of the game in 22 that he wasn't just as comfortable. But the fact that they've 2 years later, since the 24 final. Obviously, they're back using 3 keepers, so I don't think Joyce knows his best goalkeeper at the minute, which may be a worry coming into Connacht.
To put it in the simplest terms, it looked to me like you just pressed the man light in the full forward line effectively, and it left just an extra. Every kick out they went long, you just had an extra man in midfield. That was kind of the simplistic version of what you did that day.
Yeah, look, we try to get him to go as long. It's a wee bit like the rules now. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of that numbers game, but a lot of the better teams, a lot of the goalkeepers, don't give you that +1 because they're so good with both feet, and you can't really cheat off as much. But it'll be interesting to see who goes with in the Connacht Championship this year, because I think Connor hasn't seen game time from week 2 or 3, so it's a conundrum there for Joyce at the minute.
Aye, and it's one, like, it is one. In fairness, like, looking at them this last 3 or 4 years, I felt that Conor Flaherty is somebody who, if he was in pole position where he was maybe getting the 3 games and Conor Gleeson was coming in for the 1, I think Flaherty would have really improved. And I think when he comes in, there's almost like an undercurrent of a lack of confidence and almost a feeling of, if I mess this up, I'm out again. And he didn't have the luxury of 2 or 3 or 4 games to get himself a rhythm. Like, I think you just might have prepared for him, but he's more of a one-step kicker. He can go, he can kick the ball flatter. He can find pockets better. I just think all around he's a better goalkeeper than Conor Gleeson. And I've been surprised that the change hasn't been more because they've given Flaherty chances. And in fairness, like, at times when he's had the chances, he hasn't done brilliantly. He has, he's particularly prone to kicking out over the sideline for whatever reason. He did twice yesterday again, but I still do think with a wee bit of confidence shown in him, if he got a run of 4 or 5 games and found his feet, I think he would propel himself into the number 1 spot. And look, for me, you sort of don't like to see, but in some ways, like, if they hadn't let go, in the sense of Conor Carroll, if Conor Carroll hadn't gone to Roscommon, there's a good chance that Galway might have won in All Ireland by now, like, because he's probably the best goalkeeper from Galway there is.
You really see it's that much of an Achilles heel, do you think? Like, that's the.
I think certainly up until last year it was a massive Achilles heel for them. I think in the rules the way they are, because your game, Armagh's game with Kerry and Donegal's game with Monaghan is a constant reference to those 2 games, and how I think they changed how everybody looked at kickouts, and we've seen since then a lot more overload. And if you're kicking into an overload, like, I can nearly kick into an overload. It's not, you set up a box and you just kick the ball into it. You're aiming for a particular target, but it's not hard. It's, in terms of the skill of what Cluxton would have been doing, what Morgan would be doing, what Ethan Rafferty was doing at times last year. It's not on the same level, and I think it becomes less of an issue, and then your goalkeeper becomes more about his shot stopping and more about his other things. You still would love the wee bit of variety, and like we've talked about Gav Mulroney and being able to go on his left and how that opens up pockets for Donegal. Those are great luxuries.
Yesterday,
those are great luxuries, but I don't think that being a bit weaker in your goalkeeping position is now the disaster that it would have been 2 years ago. I think you had to be a stronger goalkeeper 2 years ago.
Another area where probably worth looking at is the full back position. It's been difficult enough because Sean Kelly has played there a bit, has played there a lot, but maybe out of necessity as much as anything else. Cian Hernan's in there at the minute. But that has been a problem area for them as well, Stefan.
Yeah, I think Sean Kelly, we forgot to mention his injury problems as well. So, like, he is a huge leader for them, and again, we benefited from his absence in the 24 final. So, and even when he did come in that day, I thought it was just to get a raise, from the crowd. I was obviously coming on a similar time to him, and he had zero impact in that final. He wouldn't have been at 40 or 50%. I think when you think of Sean Kelly, you'd be thinking, driving runs, that pace and power coming through the middle, and like, I can't recall too many, high speed runs from him that day. So
because he came on at the exact same time as you. The inference before the game was that he would actually come on to mark you, and you just came on at exactly the same time, and it felt like that was what was going to happen, but it didn't.
Didn't
No.
materialise, no. But I think I'm not too sure who reacted to it sub, because I was supposed to come on for TK a couple of minutes before that, so maybe Joyce had seen me warming up and going through a more strenuous warm up, to get the heart rate up. But no, he didn't come on to me in the end. Obviously McGrath came over to me, but going back to Kelly, like he didn't have a huge impact, zero impact, not game whatsoever. But back to their problem at full back, they've tried a few players. I think Fitzgerald has been named as captain for the year. They tried Hernan the last few weeks, who looks a really good footballer. I'm just not sure what he's going to be like as an orthodox 3. So I think they've 2 out of the 3 spots nailed on. But I'm torn between, given this new game. I know we keep talking about new rules, and we're now over a year into it. Is Hernan going to be that option? To me, he looks more like a wing back, a Roman wing back. How long's Fitzgerald out for? We don't know. There's another injury issue. It just seems like these lads have been on the road for so long, and the bodies are starting to let them down. But it's definitely an issue for them.
Hernan's one of those, like, he plays with a real aggression. Like you've seen that in the games he's played this year in the league. Like he attacks everything, and sometimes, in terms of him playing wing back or full back, there was times even yesterday his tackling was loose. He actually gave away a couple of really sort of sloppy, cheap frees because he's nearly so aggressive, and you can probably afford that more playing at wing back. If you're playing the full back and you're loose like that, A, you can give away cheap frees, or B, you can overcommit and get caught in behind. And he's that type of a player. He looks like to me. But like, it's a position where they've had trouble. Like you take, so Johnny McGrath's and Jack Lynn's and Liam Silk's and Dylan McHugh's, and that's 4 nailed down of their back 6. Fitzgerald has been in. They've tried Sean Mulcairn. Fitzgerald has done well. It feels like he's taking command of the full back position for when he's fit again. He's done. He's been solid. I think, like, I can't remember much spectacular from him, but I can't remember many mistakes from him either.
Again, like he's a big lad. He strips out really well. He must be 6'2" himself. But again, can't remember. Although he doesn't look as comfortable on the ball, he's probably a trigger for a lot of attacking restarts from the opposition. But he gets the job done. He's obviously a huge leader in the dressing room. And again, I can't remember many scenarios or many games where forwards have got the better of him, or maybe he's got tucked to the cleaners. I can't recall any game where he's been exposed.
He's bound to listen to some crack about TikToks as well. I don't know.
I'd say he gets some abuse.
He's a big man on TikTok. Like, he's flat out TikToking all the time. Like, and
doing what? Like,
I want to, sitting in the car talking to himself and all sorts. Like, he's a
bit of a
massive following.
right, okay.
So I would say he listens to some bad manners on the field about that. But obviously, water off a duck's back. Like, he doesn't seem one bit bothered.
He wouldn't care. I don't know him at all.
No, I don't. But I think if you're willing to put yourself out like that, and you're playing county football, you kind of know before you do it. That's coming with the territory. Like, so
he's accepted it.
He's accepted it and moved on.
Okay, yeah, we're going to wrap it up. We started off looking at whether Galway could finally break through the glass ceiling, or have they missed the boat with those couple of All Ireland. Like, it's not even like whenever Mayo were missing out. If you think back to the noughties and they shipped some really heavy All Ireland final defeats to Kerry, and everybody remembers 04 and that kind of thing. Galway's 2 All Ireland final defeats in the last number of years were kick of the ball stuff. But when you look at them, do you think that maybe that the opportunity has passed, or how do you see them?
I think we'll know the answer to that before the Connacht Championship's over. Will they get their hands on their 5th title? Who knows? So if they were to do that and go into the All Ireland with a bounce, they can probably beat anybody. But my gut's telling me that they're probably peaked. That squad peaked probably in around that 22, 23, 24 period where
when you had Comer and Walsh and these guys firing all cylinders.
Firing all cylinders. They had that fear factor. Now I know Rob Finnerty is doing an unbelievable job. He's stepped up to the mark. He's shown serious leadership at the moment. He's kicking 65% of his, he's at 65% efficiency at the moment. Can he sustain that at championship? Teams are going to have a lot more onus on him. My gut's telling me they're contenders, but probably coming from maybe the second or third bracket. I think anyone in that top 6 can challenge. I think Cork, more so Meath, and giving another rattle. I don't see them as contenders, but I think we'll know more.
You think they're away off Donegal and Kerry anyway, as things stand?
I'd like to reserve judgment until I see how the Connacht Championship goes first.
Cahair, you're renowned for reserving judgment. Go ahead.
I don't. Like as I said earlier, I've never drunk the Kool-Aid on Galway. I've never fully bought into the whole idea, and yet there's something about. I think personnel wise, they're probably a wee bit weaker than they have been, and yet structure wise, I think they're better this year than they were last year. I think what they're doing this year is closer to a template that'll get them closer to where they want to go. It's just then with that structure, have they the personnel then to carry that through? I think if the team of 2 or 3 years ago were all there and all fit and playing like this, they would go very damn close.
I agree.
But I just don't know that the absences, if you get Walsh fit, how much, if anything at all, can you get out of Comer? Thompson missing, when is Fitzgerald back? Yeah, I just think there's too many question marks over them. Even things, and I'm saying about their structure, but they're still the team most likely to keep hold of the ball and keep it round, even in the new rules, and keep it round. And their shot count compared, like Armagh are hitting up on 40 shots some weeks. Like Galway had 25 shots against Monaghan, even though they hammered Monaghan, they'd only 25 shots. There's weeks they're in the low 30s.
It's an act between the discipline.
That's low. And when you're reducing your reliance on 2-pointers, the counter to that is you need to be hitting 35 plus shots every week in order to gather your numbers up on the 1-pointers. So I just feel that I feel that they are closer. I feel like they are closer than they were last year because they've moved away from being so predictable, and they've changed their profile a wee bit. I think there's bits about them, but I still don't think they're there to get over the line now.
It's just about to go Galway for Sam, says Cahair, but no. So you walked it back a wee bit there.
I walked it to the line and then I think it back.
Fair enough. Lads, thank you very much for joining us this week. Thank you, Cahair. Thanks very much, Stefan. Enjoy Prague. The ball goes well, and fingers crossed, get a decent result.
Anybody a ticket for the final in Dublin, because they're going to be there. Like,
watch this space. That concludes another episode of the Monday Club. Thank you very much to the two boys. Thank you very much to our sponsor, Find Insurance NI, your local commercial insurance broker. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch this podcast, and we'll be back next week.